Welcome back, viewers. Welcome to my channel and welcome to episode 18. Today, I thought I'd talk about some animals and birds, fowl that I remember from my farm. So, I remember one of my earliest memories on the farm looking at the cows and how beautiful they were. I used to look at the eye lining they have. They have a natural kajal or eye makeup, what like we human beings need to apply stuff to our eyes to look beautiful. And I noticed that animals naturally have this beautiful black lining and really long lashes. So I used to think, wow, these animals are so naturally beautiful. So that is one of the things I remember thinking about them. And the babies, oh my god, who can be cuter than a calf or a little chick? I mean, they're so beautiful. We used to play with the calves. I remember one of the calves that we had, it had some knee problem. I don't know exactly what, but it couldn't really move around too well. And I was so convinced that I could heal it as a little kid. I wasn't that small when this happened. By this time, we had moved out and we also had the farm like that we used to come back to on vacations and weekends. It's probably from that time, but I'm not like 100% sure. And one day I told mom, see, it just needs exercise, it needs sunshine. But we were little kids, right? And mom was again overwhelmed with all the work that she had to do on the farm, and how much can a person manage, right? So I remember we three sisters, we walked the calf and I was convinced it would heal. But then, kids being kids, at some point I just forgot about the calf, and at night it rained. And then that calf did not get well again. So I remember feeling really sad about how careless I had been, that I was trying to make the calf better, but then that caused it to probably pass away sooner than it would have. So that was something sad I remember. Another calf thing that I remember was one particular calf, the way it suckled. So, what we would do is, I don't know after how many days, but the baby would be put in a separate place. And I do remember the baby and the mother kept calling out to each other across the wall. They were just on two sides of the wall, and it was a low wall, they could probably look. Um, and what we would do is we would milk the cow and take a bucket to the calf, and the calf naturally looks upward while suckling, right? That's its natural position. So we would uh, put our hand near the calf's mouth, and the calf would latch on, and then we would lower its head into the bucket, its face into the bucket, and then the calf would start lapping up the milk from there. So it learned to do that. But there was one calf at random times, like any time of the day, it would just do this air suckling, like people do air guitar. It would do this air suckling, and then I asked my mom about it, and she was like, even this mother used to do it. So that's something I don't know what to think about. It's kind of sad that human beings do this, but at that time I didn't know how sad it was. Then another incident I remember about one calf. It was an older calf, not a real small baby. It was almost on the verge of adulthood. One day she was not really secured in the cowshed, and she got out. And then it was like she was on a gluttony trip. Like she felt like she had to eat as much as she possibly could. She got into the paragrass field and she started eating and eating and eating, and she got so bloated when we found her. I guess she just thought, this is my chance, let me eat as much as I possibly can, fresh tender paragraphs. And then I guess she had a stomach ache after that. Then I remember the hens. I have memories of beautiful fluffy chicks. I remember once, like the chicks were so cute and we used to hold them. They were like little powder puffs. I remember once baby Molly was very, very small and she grabbed a chick. Like how, babies have a really firm grip. They don't have fine motor skills. They can just get all grabby. So I remember my mom getting horrified seeing that baby Molly had grabbed a chick, and mom went running to free it from her grasp. But by the time mom got there, it had already been squeezed too hard. It was such a tender baby. So that one didn't make it, and we all felt really sad about that. But then, what to do? She was a baby, she didn't know. Um, and then mom had told us some traumatic things from her childhood. Apparently, mom had a pet hen. I mean, those were our pets, right? On farms, what you in villages, what pets are you gonna have? Maybe the stray dogs around, but so mom had this hen, and she used to look after it very nicely. And one day there was a cat that ate up mom's hen, and mom was so angry at the cat. And mom remembers saying that when the cat died one day, mom was happy and she was like, "This cat ate my hen. Good, she died." Oh, this cycle, life cycle thing, the food cycle thing is really sucky. Like, all living creatures are so lovely, and then to survive, I guess the carnivores don't even have a choice. Like, they're condemned to kill to eat, I guess. What else are they gonna do? They'll just die off if they don't. So that's kind of messed up. Anyway, then mom had told us a few other stories from her childhood. Apparently, what we did on our farm, there used to be these earthen pots, and the hens, when it was time for them to lay eggs, they would go into the pot, and then we would cover the pot with a clay lid, the earthen lid. And then after a certain amount of time, we would lift off the lid, they would come out, and there would be an egg inside. So apparently that's how they feel comfortable laying eggs, I guess. So that was something we did daily. Like, so mom told us once they had just cooked something in a pot, and then they cooled it. They like did everything to cool it. But apparently it still holds heat inside. Like, sometimes pots hold coolness inside. So they thought they had cooled it sufficiently when in their house when mom was kind of small. And then they let the hen in to lay her egg in, but then it was too hot and the poor hen did not make it, because mom said she kept flying out and she would drink water, then she would go into the pot again to lay her egg, but then that heat just, she didn't make it after that. So that was sad. And I mean, they should have just had one more pot just for the hen. Why were they cooking in the same pot? I don't know. I guess they didn't have enough pots. They didn't have much money. But that was really sad for a hen to die for that reason. And I distinctly remember letting the hen into the pot, covering it, waiting a certain amount of time, then opening the lid and shooing the hen away, and then seeing the egg. So once mom told us about when one of the hens used to go away somewhere every day. And mom was like, where does she go? Because mom had so much work. She was busy. She had 3 kids to look after. She had so much work on the farm. So obviously, how much is she going to manage? But she was super dynamic at handling everything. But then mom is saying after, I don't know how much time, one day she saw that the hen was walking back to our farm with a bunch of chicks. So mom was like, she probably had fertilized eggs and she did not want those to be taken. And she went somewhere else and laid the eggs and hatched the babies, looked after them, and then brought them back home. That was so cute. That was one more story about a hen. Then another story that I remember was once when there was a storm or something. I remember I don't know if lightning had struck, but I remember we used to have hay stacks. We used to stack the hay for our cows, right? We used to stack it up outside the house. And once, I think the wind was very strong or something, and the haystack got knocked over. And then mom immediately kind of remembered that the hen had been around that area. I don't know, with her chicks or without her chicks, I don't know. But mom was like, instantly when the haystack fell, she was like, my hen is under that entire haystack. And she went running, and she, with her bare hands, like, she just flung away the bales or whatever you call them, the bunches of hay. She just kept on flinging that hole. That, I think that's really tall. That's like 12 feet or so tall, the haystack that we have. And she just started flinging it aside until right at the bottom of it, she found her hen, and the hen was alive and well. And we were all so happy. So that happened. Then there's another memory I have that's not a very, like, that's kind of sad. And that is about a rooster that we had. So this was from a time when I was a little older, when we used to come back to the farm for the weekends or whatever, for the vacations. So I remember once we went back to the farm, and I think my dad told Dada, do you remember Dada, the caretaker, the Adivasi guy whose wife used to smoke beedies and he wouldn't? So once we went there for vacation or something, I don't remember. And then dad told Dada, hey, why don't we cook the rooster today? And so that was one rooster with his few hens, and they used to strut around all day. And when I understood, when I saw Dada grabbing the rooster, I understood what was happening, and I cried and I was like, don't do it. I was not very big, definitely below 10 years, I guess. And I was like, please don't do it, don't kill him, don't kill him. And then that was cooked for lunch. And then I remember saying, I will not eat it, I will not eat it. But then it smelled so good and it tasted so good. And I remember that sense of shame. And, I was like, what are we? What am I? I thought I wouldn't eat it and I was upset, but here I am eating it. Like as a little child, also, I had this whole dilemma and conflict. And I ate it, and then you don't feel very good about yourself. So that's one more thing I remember. At later times, sometimes when we used to go back to the farm, we also used sometimes would bring back whatever servant was with us. So I remember once there was a servant girl called Gauri. She came with us to our farm for the break, for the vacation or whatever, and she would help around. So earlier there used to be a cat that would keep coming and walking around on our farm. So one day my mom mentioned, she was like, why is that cat never coming now? And I told mom, I saw Gauri taking that tire thing, the rubber tire thing which children used to play with. They would just push it with a stick and it would roll. So she had that rubber tube or rubber tire thing, and she hit the cat with it, and that poor cat never came back. And mom was so horrified. So we did not treat animals like in that way, the way Gauri did that. So then mom told her not to do that again to animals. And there was another incident involving Gauri. So we used to kind of lay our mattresses down in the veranda in summer, and we used to sleep over there. So I remember once Gauri caught hold of a frog. And she was like, here, do you want to see a frog? It was bedtime and we were all lying down, and we were like, oh my god, she caught hold of a frog. And then the frog peed right there on that mattress. The poor frog was probably panicking. So that's another funny thing I remember about Gauri and the frog. Then we asked her to let it go, and she let it go. Some more things from later, once we no longer had the farm, from afterwards, once we had gone back to visit, I remember, and there were different things my parents had to do to relocate the cows. I'll tell you that later. But once we went to the government cow sheds to visit our cow that we had sold to the government setup over there, the dairy setup. And guess which cow that was? The cow that had traumatized me by lifting me up on her horns and flinging me. That was Sudha, who had been sold to the government dairy setup. And then we entered that huge cow shed, and we just called out Sudha, and she immediately turned around and looked. And we got so emotional, like Sudha remembered her name. And we didn't think anyone would be calling her by her name. But that was the cow that had traumatized me. But we went and we visited with her. And we played with the calves, the little baby calves over there. They were so cute. They were just in their individual sections, separated by some metal bars. And they were super cute, and we played with them. And once I remember, when we had gone back to our farm, another memory I have is one of our cows had just swollen up like a balloon, and she was lying on her side and just dying, and we were so horrified. And mom asked Dada, what happened? Why is she like this? Why is she dying? And he's like, I don't know, she was sick. And that poor cow, he just left her. I don't know the whole thing. I was a kid, but I remember we cried. We cried for her because she was sick and dying slowly. And I don't know if it was Minakshi or who, but we felt really, really sad about that. And I remember a later time once when mom, feeling very, very sad and guilty. Once later, when we had moved elsewhere, many years had passed, she told me how guilty she felt when we had sold the farm, we could not relocate Rathi anywhere because she was so aggressive. So Rathi and Sudha were the ones we could not bring with us. We could not make them travel and come somewhere else with us after we sold the farm. So I remember that Rathi, I guess the person who bought the farm did not want the cows, so we had to relocate them. So Rathi had to be sold to a butcher because nobody was willing to like buy her, and mom felt so horrid about it. And one day later, several years later, she admitted she's like I hated that we had to sell her off to the butcher, and she was so lovely, but nobody would buy her. So these are some of the memories of the animals that I grew up with. I hope you enjoyed the episode, dear listeners, dear viewers, and please do give a thumbs up if you liked my episode, and please do subscribe, and I'll come back to you with another story another day. Okay, bye bye for now.